Hey there, fellow knowledge seeker. Ready to unlock some secrets?
I'm always up for that. What secrets are we unlocking today?
Today we're diving deep into Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas.
Oh, excellent choice. This book is a game changer.
Our listeners know this book well. They're the ones who recommended it. And we're here to uncover those mindset shifts for consistent success as a trader. You ready to break it down with us?
Absolutely. This book is near and dear to my heart.
So the book says most traders think just learning more about the market is the key. What's wrong with that approach?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Douglas, he argues the market's like a wild river, always changing.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah, no matter how much you learn, how much you study the maps, you can't prepare for every single twist and turn.
It's more about how you handle the rapids than knowing the river's every bend.
Right. You got it.
So if we're not after all the answers, what should traders be focusing on?
Douglas is really big on accepting the inherent risk and uncertainty. He says the best traders are fearless, not because they know everything, but because they've embraced the unknown.
Okay, so it's more like you can't control the weather, but you can learn to dance in the rain, right?
That's a fantastic way to put it. It's about shifting from trying to predict everything to becoming comfortable with the unpredictable.
That's a real mindset shift for most people.
Absolutely. And that's why Douglas calls trading a paradox. The very things we're taught to do in life, like avoid risk at all costs, can actually sabotage us in the markets.
It reminds me of that saying, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. You need a strategy, for sure. But you also need the flexibility to adapt when the market throws a curveball. What are some ways traders get tripped up by this illusion of certainty Douglas talks about?
He says many get stuck analyzing, always trying to predict the unpredictable, instead of accepting that sometimes things are random.
Trying to fit the ocean into a teacup is just not going to happen.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the market has a mind of its own.
Okay, so if we buy into that, how do we break free? How do we actually shift our thinking?
This is where it gets really insightful. Douglas digs deep into how our beliefs, often the ones we don't even realize we have, shape our decisions and our results.
Okay, and I'm guessing these hidden beliefs aren't always helpful.
Exactly. And he highlights 4 primary trading fears that tend to drive our actions.
4. All right, hit me with those fear.
The first one is something I think everyone can relate to. It's the fear of being wrong.
Makes sense.
In trading, that might look like hesitation, second-guessing your strategy, even when you've done your homework. And then, of course, there's the fear of losing money.
Oh, yes. The dreaded red numbers. I think
Yeah.
we've all been there.
Right. Who hasn't? It can make you hold on to losing trades for way too long, hoping for a miracle turnaround.
Ouch. Yeah, I've been there. What are the other 2?
Well, the third one is FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Ah, FOMO, the ultimate market manipulator.
Exactly. It makes you chase trades, jump in at the worst possible moment, all because you're afraid of being left behind. And finally, we've got the fear of leaving money on the table.
Ah, so this is like selling your winners too early because you're afraid of them turning around.
Exactly that.
It's like all these emotions hijacking our best intentions.
They totally do. We let fear cloud our judgment, and that's where Douglas's 5 fundamental truths come into play.
5 truths. Okay, I'm intrigued. Give us the rundown.
It all starts with accepting that anything can happen in the market.
Okay, sounds simple enough, but I imagine truly embracing that idea is crucial.
It's huge.
Right.
Because from there, he goes on to say, you don't need to know what's going to happen next to make money.
Those 2 ideas alone, if you genuinely believe anything can happen, wow, it takes the pressure off needing to be right all the time.
Exactly. And the next truth kind of ties into that. It's that wins and losses, they're randomly distributed.
So even if you have a solid trading edge,
Yeah.
it doesn't guarantee a win every single time, right? Like
Right.
flipping a coin.
Exactly.
Even if it's slightly weighted in your favor, you still don't know which side it's going to land on each time you flip it.
Precisely. And that leads us to truth number 4, which is that an edge just tilts the odds. It doesn't mean you won't have losses.
Okay, so it's about the long game, not about trying to win every single trade.
Exactly. You got it. And the 5th truth, it brings it all together every single moment in the market. It's unique.
So instead of getting caught up in individual wins and losses, it's about focusing on consistently applying that edge you've developed over time.
Exactly. That's what it's all about.
Wow, this is really making me think about trading in a whole new light.
That's what we're here for.
These truths are a powerful way to look at the uncertainty we face in the markets. But how do we put them into practice? Where do we go from here?
That's where the real meat of the book comes in. That's where Douglas introduces his 7 principles of consistency.
7 principles. All right, we're ready for more. Give us a taste of these principles. What are they all about?
It's about taking control, right?
Huh.
But focusing on the things you actually can control, your actions, your mindset.
Instead of trying to tame the wild river.
Exactly. For example, he talks a lot about identifying your edge, your trading strategy,
Okay.
and then predefining your risk on every single trade. And I don't just mean in your head.
Right.
It's about having a concrete plan written down.
Like a pilot with their pre-flight checklist, it's about having that system in place.
Exactly. You got it. Another big one is completely accepting the risk. And what that means is being willing to let go of the trade.
So no getting married to a trade.
No.
Like, I've fallen in love with this stock. I'm going to ride it all the way down.
That's the opposite of what we want. Because once you enter that trade, you accept it could go either way. You're ready for either outcome.
So it's like if you're playing poker and you get dealt a losing hand,
Right.
you don't keep throwing good money after bad. You fold. You wait for a better opportunity.
Exactly. You're playing to win, but you're also playing smart.
Okay, so we're predefining the risk, accepting the risk. What else is there?
Then it's about acting on your edges without hesitation.
Okay.
This goes back to having that plan, trusting your system.
Yeah.
When you see an opportunity that aligns with your edge, you take action.
It reminds me of that quote, I think it was Jesse Livermore, who said, "It was never my thinking that made me big money. It was always my sitting."
Love that quote. It's about discipline.
Yeah, having the discipline to follow through even when it's uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And then on the flip side, when the market does move in your favor,
Okay.
he talks about the importance of paying yourself, taking your profits systematically.
So don't be that person who's like, I'm just going to hold on a little longer.
Right.
And then watches it all disappear.
Because that greed will get you. It's about sticking to the plan, even when you're feeling emotional.
Right, so you're taking emotions out of the equation as much as possible.
As much as humanly possible. And that leads us to the 6th principle, constantly monitoring for errors.
Oh, I like that. So it's about being honest with yourself about your weaknesses.
Being self-aware is huge.
Like, I know I get impatient when things are slow, so I'm going to be extra careful during those times.
Exactly. Or I tend to chase breakouts, so I need to be more selective about my entries. You've got to protect yourself from yourself.
Because we're often our own worst enemy in the market, right?
100%. Okay, so we've covered 6 principles. Are you ready for the grand finale?
Hit me with number 7.
This one, it's simple but not easy. Understanding the necessity of these principles and never violating them.
So it's not enough to just know them. You have to live and breathe them every time you trade.
Precisely. It's where that true mastery lies. And that actually brings us to another important part of the book, where Douglas talks about the 3 stages of trading: mechanical, subjective, and intuitive.
3 stages. Okay, now I'm really curious. What's that all about?
So he describes that mechanical stage as the foundation, right? This is where you're mastering those basics, like we talked about, identifying your edge, managing risk, executing trades consistently. No fancy moves, just pure disciplined execution.
Okay, so kind of like take your ego out of it. You become this well-oiled machine.
Exactly.
So no freestyling in the mechanical stage.
Not quite. We'll get there. But
Yeah.
first, you gotta build that discipline, build trust in your system. Think of it like learning to drive.
Okay, yeah.
You wouldn't jump straight into a race car, right? You start with the basics.
Got to learn to drive an automatic before you can handle a stick shift.
Exactly. And then, once you've got that solid foundation in the mechanical stage,
Okay.
you can move into the subjective stage.
Here we go. So this is where we get a little more freedom.
Yeah. This is where you can bring in a bit more of your own intuition, your experience.
So you're not just reacting to signals, you're starting to develop a feel for the market.
Precisely. You're recognizing patterns, you're becoming more adaptable, more in tune with the market, but
Uh-oh, there's always a but, isn't there?
just a little one. Because this stage, it requires caution. It's easy to slip back into old habits, trying to outsmart the market.
It's like that saying, a little bit of knowledge can be dangerous. You've had some success, you're feeling confident,
Right.
but that confidence can easily turn into overconfidence.
And that's when those costly mistakes happen.
That's when you get over-leveraged and blow up your account.
Exactly. Okay, so then we reach that final, most elusive stage, intuitive trading.
All right, this sounds interesting. Intuitive trading, what's that all about?
Douglas, he says this level, you can't force it. It emerges from mastering those first 2 stages.
So is this like trusting your gut, that 6th sense?
It's about seeing the market clearly, without fear or ego clouding your judgment.
Wow, so it's like achieving a state of trading zen.
You could say that, But it's important to remember, even seasoned traders, they can cycle through these stages. The market keeps changing, we keep evolving. The key is being aware of where you are on that journey.
This has been incredibly insightful. Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap up?
If there's one thing to take away from trading in the zone, it's this. The market doesn't owe you anything.
Oh, I like that.
It's up to each of us to develop the mental game, the discipline to navigate those uncertainties.
We can't control the market, but we can control ourselves.
Exactly. And that control comes from understanding those 5 truths, those 7 principles we talked about.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. Thanks for joining me.
It's been my pleasure. To all our listeners out there, happy trading. May you find your zone.
Right, yeah. I like that analogy. So you're saying in the subjective stage, you're like, okay, I've got the basics down.
You're not just blindly following the rules anymore.
Yeah, you're starting to develop that feel, that intuition.
Exactly. You're recognizing those subtle cues, those patterns.
Like, oh, I've seen this before.
Exactly. You're becoming more adaptable.
More in tune with the music of the market.
I like that, the music of the market. But
Always a but.
it's easy to get ahead of yourself at this stage.
Right, because you're feeling good, you've had some wins.
And that's where it can get dangerous.
Because that little bit of knowledge,
Can be a dangerous thing.
it's like you've graduated from driving school, but you're not quite ready for the Autobahn.
Exactly. You've got to respect the learning process. And that brings us to that final stage, that intuitive trading.
Okay, so what's the deal with intuitive trading? How do you even get there?
That's the thing, you can't force it. It's not something you can just decide to do one day.
So you're saying it emerges from mastering those first 2 stages.
Exactly. It's like, think about a martial artist.
Okay.
They spend years, decades, honing their skills, and then one day,
It just clicks.
they're not even thinking, they're just reacting.
Wow. So it's about reaching that level of mastery where your instincts are just in sync with the market.
You're seeing the matrix, you're seeing those opportunities.
So how do we know when we've reached that intuitive level?
Honestly, you probably won't even realize it at first. It's not like you get a notification on your trading platform, congratulations, you're now an intuitive trader.
Right.
But what you will notice is that your trading becomes effortless, almost.
Magical.
There you go. It's
Yeah.
like you're dancing with the market, not fighting against it.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. Really appreciate you breaking all this down for us.
My pleasure. It's a conversation I could have all day long.
I bet. For our listeners who are just starting out, what would be your biggest piece of advice for them?
Be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day.
And the market definitely doesn't reward impatience.
Not at all. Focus on the process. Master those fundamentals.
Those 5 truths, those 7 principles.
Exactly. Those are your building blocks. And remember, trading's a marathon, not a sprint.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This has been an awesome deep dive into trading in the zone. Huge thanks to our listeners for suggesting it, and a big thank you to you for sharing your insights.
Always a pleasure. Happy trading, everyone.